Welcome in to another episode of the My Two Bits Gators Football Podcast. I am your host, Ben, joined as always by your other host, Randy. Randy, game one, it's in the books. How we feeling?
B, what is going on, my man? It is My Two Bits. It's season 3. Hard to believe. Welcome to it. Great to see you Saturday night back in the swamp. And
Yes, sir.
Job's done. Job's well done. I'll leave it at that. Looking forward to getting into this agenda with you, my man.
Yes, indeed. So for those that are familiar, and if you're not familiar, welcome. But if you are familiar, we have a pretty set agenda for these game pods as we go through the season. But we definitely get into some good stuff, I think. But the format's pretty laid out. So to that end, we'll get right into it. We start off here with our intro, our mission, our accuracy disclaimer, our vision, and our agenda. So our mission is to provide factual analysis of all things Florida Gator football. Our accuracy disclaimer is that our information will be accurate to the best of our ability, and we will cite our sources whenever we use them. And all statistical data comes from either ESPN or stats.ncaa.org, and recruiting data comes from on3.com. Our vision is to have unfiltered conversation around the product on the field, as well as recruiting and overall coaching decisions. Our analysis will be based on review of film, and while we will express opinion, that opinion should always be based in some form of fact. We will also evaluate strategy and tactics and discuss our observation of player personnel decisions as well as on-the-field execution. So, as mentioned, our standard agenda for the season starts off with our "Oh My" section, going through the exciting plays from the game this past weekend. We will then get into the offense with the Chomp segment and go through the review of the offensive play that we saw. Then we'll get into Gator Bait and look at the defensive side of the football and what we saw there. We'll then have our visor throw segment, which is kind of our beef, our complaints from the game and what we didn't like. Then we talk hatchlings, which is our recruiting segment, get into any relevant recruiting updates we have. Then Pride of the Sunshine, talk about the culture segment of the team and the program as a whole. And then we'll talk a little move back, you suck, and do a little officiating review. We do like to talk about the officials, consider them to be an important part of the game. And for those who might be new, Randy is actually a high school official in the state of Florida. So he will give a unique perspective there. And then finally, we will wrap things up, we'll review Keep It or Pitch It from last week and the results there, as well as play another round for this week with USF. And then I will review the notes from the Sims that I ran in College Football 26 and wrap out and close things off with our sign off. So with that, let's get things started with the "Oh My." What do you got for me tonight? What got your meter jumping Saturday night in the swamp, bud?
Yeah, man. Few things. Those of you who might know, I might cheat. In past years, I've cheated. We've got 3. We've capped it to 3 plays. Sometimes I try and sneak in a 4th or a 5th, just like a down lineman. But either way, here, first one in no particular order, but chronological. Bryce Thornton scoop and score a minute 19 into the game.
Yeah, now, for sure.
I will credit Jaden Robinson with the punch out. Big Jaden did get his paw around, punch that ball out. Bryce Thornton, scoop, score. So awesome to see. We don't see it too often. When was the last time we saw it? Well, we saw it back in 2020 when D lineman Zach Carter did a scoop and score, right? So, hey, wow. Awesome to see that.
Nice stat pull. I like it.
It's been a minute or 2 or 10, right? So
yeah,
I was just curious going back into the archives, right? Thank you, ESPN. Appreciate that.
Yes, indeed.
Next up for my most exciting play, Jaden Baugh. Which play in particular? It's about 10 minutes to go in the first quarter. The stiff arm breaking 2 tackles for the gain. First down, gets hit out of bounds. Thank you for calling the out of bounds late hit. But
yes, indeed.
At the end of the day, the way this kid, his size, the way he's able to move, the way he's able to brush off defenders with strength and power and agility, I will coin the term right now, #wrecking ball. I'll just say that. Okay.
I love it. Love it.
And what he's able to do. So heads up. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to just throw this in here. Matt Napier, younger brother of Billy Napier, he was a coach at LaGrange High School. He was the one who saw Jaden Baugh and gave a call to his big brother and said, hey, this kid's going to Arkansas. Just want to let you know, you might want to put eyes on him again. Just saying.
Yeah.
So thank you, Matt Napier.
Thank you, Matt Napier. Yes, indeed.
Right. Last play, B, I believe you said something to the effect of, if it's making the SC top 10 number one, why wouldn't it be on Oh My? VB3 doing his best OBJ impersonation. And I tell you what, phenomenal play. The concentration. Yeah, he probably didn't think the ball was going to be launched as high. He's probably thinking, okay, I got to come back to it. Oh, no, wait, I got to adjust. The handout, the tip, the assist to himself, then the wherewithal to control it, haul it into his chest. Phenomenal catch, out of our minds. We saw an amazing catch one-handed by Ricky Pearsall a couple of years ago that left a lot of people speechless. It was neat to see the swamp erupt for that catch. And not to mention, VB3 just became the third freshman in Florida program history to log his first career start in a season opener, joining Antonio Callaway. That was back in 2015, and Percy in 2006. And not to mention the 75 receiving yards he had on Saturday night is the most ever by a Gator freshman in his debut. So VB3 doing big things in the season opener. What do you got, B?
I like some of the stats you're pulling in there. That's good stuff, man. Yeah, good deal. So I have
season 3. Gotta bring it.
Yeah, man, for sure. I like it. I have 2 of the same and 1 different. So we'll start with mine are chronological as well. Start with the one you mentioned second. Actually, I don't have blanking on the name. Thornton's scoop and score. I did not put that one in, though. It's a very good call. So I'm with you on Jaden and that second rush of the game. I have your wrecking ball reference here as well. I'm definitely going to start stealing that because I'm a big fan. And it was in full effect on that one for sure. Nasty stiff arm, as you mentioned, ran over the next guy. And then he gets hit out of bounds, as you said. Thank you for the call, because it should have been called. And we'll talk more about that later. But the physical display of running, the contact balance, the strength, everything is just amazing to watch with him. And I am so looking forward to seeing a lot more of it for the rest of the season. Again, we've talked about this before. As much as we jump on Napier for the passing concepts, and man, we're going to keep doing that. But as much as we do that, the running game and having a player like this in that running game with an O-line that can run block very well. Oh man. It's going to be fun. There's a lot of good that's going to come out of that for sure. So very, very high on this entire thing. So really good stuff there for number 1. Number 2, VB3 catch. I mean, absolutely. Without question, one of the highlights of the entire game. You knew it was going to be on the list, as you mentioned. Here it is. From watching the replay, he slowed down on his route, right, as you mentioned, and underestimated how far Lagway was going to throw it, and then lost his balance a little bit trying to recover, and that's why he actually fell down. But regardless of why it happened, right, regardless of why, incredible catch, and one the entire stadium was just erupting for. But what was crazy is they almost just made as much noise on the replay as they did on the catch.
Right.
Because when you saw the replay, it was like, holy cow, he really did catch it. It was amazing. Absolutely amazing. Welcome to Gainesville, Vernell. We are very happy to have you. Outstanding stuff. And can't wait to see his partner in crime, Dallas Wilson, get started up as well as soon as he's healthy enough to do so. Hopefully that will be sooner rather than later. All right, last but not least, I'm giving this one to Lagway's final TD throw of the evening to end the first half. This throw to Sturdivant event in the back corner of the end zone has me very amped up. Despite anything we saw with Lagway that we were concerned with or maybe have some question marks around, which we'll talk to, this is what we needed to see before he was done for the day. This showed you everything you want. Lagway made a quick read, seeing it was man coverage, then put not only a highly accurate ball, but maybe more importantly, a perfectly timed ball to the back shoulder for what I would say, my opinion, best throw of the night for him. Best throw of the night for him, really. I know that throw to VB3 earlier on was good, but this one was phenomenal. The LIU DB that was in coverage was blanketed. I mean, he was all over Sturdivant. There was no window for that pass to be open. But when you have the timing and the placement and get that just right to where when the receiver turns around and boom, the ball's there and he knows it's coming, it doesn't matter. You can't guard it. The NFL has perfected this for a while now, right? They've been doing it for 15 years or so with these back shoulder fades. You can't guard them. When they're timed right, when they're thrown properly and they're thrown accurately, it's unguardable. I don't care who's on you. You're either, unless you commit pass interference, it's unguardable, period. And that's exactly what you saw here. And that's the kind of stuff that we need to see. That's the timing stuff that I was worried about him not having because of all the time missed in camp. So seeing that, especially with a new receiver to the team, beautiful. Really loved it. Absolutely outstanding, and definitely worthy of an oh my. So with that, we will wrap it up and move on to Chomp and get talking about the offense here. So as always, we will start things off with our review of the passer rating and the yards per carry. So for those who may be new to listening, or if you just don't remember from last season, we do the NFL QB rating. So the college QB rating has a huge degree of variance to it. We don't like that degree of variance. We think it gives you a little bit of inconsistent in regards to what you see. So we use the NFL QB rating. I know it's not the NFL, but we like the rating better. It goes from 0 to 158.3, and anything over 100 is good. I would say anything over 110, 115 is very good, just to kind of put some perspective around this. So Lagway and Jones combined in this game had a 133.22 rating. So despite some of the struggles that we may have seen, this still wasn't bad. And to top that off, I pulled Lagway's out by itself, and it was 134.03. So actually outstanding. Really, really good. One of his better numbers, quite frankly, that we've seen. He's had a couple that were higher than that, but not many. So it's actually pretty darn good. So despite some of the concerns that are legitimate, and we'll talk to him in a second here, I think really nothing to be upset about with that number, wouldn't you say? So moving on and looking at yards per carry, we were only at 5.26 for the game. However, there's a caveat on that I'll get to later that I do think is very important. 5.26 against an FCS opponent is not good enough, period. It's just not. That number's too low. 5.26 in a normal game would be fine, but in against an FCS team, no, not at all. So, theme of the night for me. This will apply to all segments and everything that we're talking about. I'm going to not overreact. That is what I'm going to do, because this is an overreaction Monday, as all of you know, and I'm sure everybody's overreacting to all kinds of things, whether it's Gators or Florida State versus Alabama or Miami versus Notre Dame, or we could go on and on and on and on about everything that happened this weekend, right? I'm not going to do that. That is going to be, or at least it's going to be my goal. I'll try not to do it, maybe. I'll say that. So to that note, I'll start with the concerns that I have. The concerns that I have are O-line blocking. We had some real struggles in general, though there were some different things that LIU threw in here. And this is not me just talking Billy speak from the press conference. I went back and I watched the film. There were safety blitzes, there were stunts, there were sim pressures, there were unbalanced lines. They were throwing some weird stuff out there. You can tell that their coach has a huge background in defense. He was a defensive coordinator for many years. He was a defensive coordinator in the SEC at one time. This guy knows his defense, and he threw a bunch of stuff out there. A lot of different variations, a lot of confusing things from a standpoint of what they were doing in the pass, in the pass rush segment, and also just kind of how they were bringing guys and some things that they were doing along the line and with the linebackers. The secondary coverage wasn't anything too spectacular from like an exotic standpoint. It was solid, but it wasn't, anything that was super hard to dissect. But DJ ended up not having a lot of time because of some of the stuff that was going on at the line. Now, should that have been the case regardless? Probably not. And that's my concern in regards to O-line blocking. But there is a caveat there that's worth mentioning. Pass blocking in particular showed some concerns, especially with Bryce Lovett and Cam Waits. No surprise there. We'll get into more of that later when we have another section for that. I'll leave it alone for now. And while we did have play calling and design that was very basic, as we expected, it was actually a little better once Trammell came in, and that is difficult for me to understand. I don't know why we saw things that were a little more just aggressive, more so in the calling than the design, but just some of the play calls themselves. It just looked, I don't know if they were just trying to get him more reps passing. I don't know what the goal was there. Maybe they were trying to, ease Lagway in, but why would you not ease a freshman? I don't know. Again, I'll mention it more later. I'll leave it alone for now. It was just confusing to me. Last concern is Lagway definitely showed rust early, as we said. He just didn't look fully comfortable. But I'm actually curious if he's 100% fully healthy after the latest injury with the calf. I have no intel to support this. He just didn't look quite like himself in his movements in the pocket. Regardless of the performance throwing the ball, it could just be comfortability coming back, not having played for such a long time, right? Having so many missed practices in the offseason. Maybe that's all it was. Maybe he is 100%. I don't know. I'm not a trainer. I don't have inside information. As I said, it just looked a little not quite like what I saw last year. The movement was just a little off. Even when he was dealing with a hamstring, I felt like his movement, at least in the pocket, looked more fluid. This looked somehow labored. I don't know. And again, maybe it was just uncomfortable. We'll see what happens as time goes on. Not going to overreact to it. As I mentioned, just stating a concern. So, changing gears now. Oh, sorry. Did you say something?
No, you're good, my man.
All right. Positive takeaways. Obviously, the majority of the run blocking on the night, the majority of it, again, they ran a couple things that were tricky, did some stuff where they were able to break through contain, and we did have a couple missed assignments. I saw one, again, particularly on Lovett, that was not great, but this is the positive side. Most of the run blocking on the night and subsequently Ball's first half performance was excellent. Really, really good. Looks solid. This team is going to run block very well, clearly, especially once they get a couple things cleaned up. It's going to be really good. And again, Ball's running is just all world. So this is the stat I mentioned earlier. First half yards per carry with Ball and Jackson was 8 yards per carry, not 5.26. And 8 yards per carry is much more like what you should be seeing. So our starters in Ball and Jacoby did just fine. It was when the backups came in the second half that you saw that yards per carry go down and dwindle back down to that 5.26. And that is much more understandable. It still probably should have been better. However, I'm a lot better with an 8 yard per carry number with the starters. So feeling a lot better about that now that once I went through and looked that up. Second positive point, Lagway's reads and throws did get better as we moved into and through the second quarter. And as mentioned in my oh my, his best throw of the night was his last one to me, without question, which is a great way to end off before that's a great, kind of, we talk about a swing thought in golf, right? This is a great throw thought for him to leave the game on. Having that one as the last one he threw out there, I'm sure it'll be good on film review and all that stuff. So really good things there. Last but not least, I was definitely impressed with Trammell and his performance in the second half. Thought he was excellent. And really pleased to see that we are not dead in the water if, for some reason, Lagway is not able to play at some point this season. Knock on wood. Not sure if you can hear that wood knock, but I literally knocked on wood. So with that, I will turn it over to you. What do you got for offense, my man?
Nice, man. Very good. Very good. Very detailed. I'm going to keep it as short as I can. You went pretty deep into that.
I did.
As you did. And that's a good stuff, because at the end of the day, it's funny. You read my mind as far as the yards per carry. So I'm looking at 5.2 going, really? That's it? And then when you look at the discrepancy of 8 versus 3 and change, like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Because don't get me wrong, it was nice to see KD. It was nice to see Duke there in the second half. But the other thing, too, I felt like with that is Jacoby did not quite have the performance that I think he wanted to have, much less we wanted him to have, right? There was the fumble. Yeah, we recovered. Thank you, Damian George, with a big pause. But at the end of the day, I can't say enough about Ball. I mean, and that's why I'm going to coin the term wrecking ball, because the kid's just unbelievable in what he does. So outside of that, the one thing I will say is Lagway at the podium. So B, I'm sure you caught him at the podium at the end of the game, and he was the first to say just didn't play up to that standard, right? Didn't at all. And I'm with you. I felt like he never really looked comfortable in the pocket. There were many snaps. I didn't count specifically, but just felt like he held onto the ball too long. Now, looking at that and looking at the LIU coach, again, I agree with you. It's not just Napier speak. The LIU coach threw some stuff at him, right? Some defensive concepts that included some of those sims, some of those pressures, some of those blitzes. He's definitely never seen anything like that before, right? Cooper has, the LIU coach has an extensive coaching background on the defensive side of the football. That was kind of his calling card, right? So to know that he threw those things, and we did struggle with them, right? So that was actually a nice little test to see from an FCS team of this caliber. So, I was worried because I'm like, man, he's not seeing the field well. He's not checking down. He's not seeing someone open, and flat out missed 2 or 3 throws, which we're not really used to seeing. That was kind of tough to see. It's like, okay, is this rust? My thought was exactly kind of what you said. Okay, is he at 100%? Is he at 90? Is he at what? Right? Is it really just the uncomfortability? Because that first quarter to second quarter, people would say, well, I didn't see a whole lot of difference outside of a couple of thrown touchdowns. I saw a difference in the whole demeanor. And I agree with you as far as the way he left it. That touchdown throw to Sturdivant, the timing of it, the location of it, right? Just like real estate, location. Couldn't have been done better. And if it was not in that window, that would have been an incomplete, 100%. 100%. Yep. But that's the thing, right? We worried about that because the fall camp looks like as if he didn't have as much 11v11 reps, right? Go figure. So glad to see him settle down in the second quarter. That was great. LIU. Let's talk about LIU for a second here, okay? Forced 11 tackles for loss against this offense, okay? That's more than the defense had, which was 7 TFLs. Okay. And again, maybe it was because of some of those simulated pressures. Maybe it was because of some of those blitzes, but we had a little bit of a deficiency on a particular side of the line. And you already mentioned it, especially when it comes to Bryce. And now Bryce looked like he tweaked the knee or something there in the second quarter. It's like, hey, third quarter, hey, get him out. But either way, there was a decent amount of rust there. So that was what it was. The other thing I thought too, with his uncomfortability, I felt like 7 of those TFLs, maybe 2 or 3, could have been prevented, but he just held onto the ball for a long period of time. And so I look at the sense of there were the pressures, there was that aspect of it, but on the other hand, he did hold on too long. There were a couple times where Trey did cut across in the slot, didn't hit him, especially that second play from scrimmage, losing 8 yards. Holding on to the ball for that sack. I felt like that
was the first play we had on offense.
Sorry, first, right? So I felt like he should have let go of that ball really quick, caught Trey across the middle, caught Hayden across the middle. I felt like those two were open. Just for whatever reason, his eyes were elsewhere, and he just couldn't get out of it.
Yeah, there was another one later in the first 2 where he was going to have Sturdivant. I believe it was Sturdivant. He was going to be. I guarantee he was going to be open on the post. I'm watching the review on the film, and LIU just kind of went down in the pocket, and the pocket wasn't even really collapsing on him. It felt like he just got I don't know if he had a bad pocket awareness moment, or again maybe it's a comfortability thing. I don't know, but the pocket was okay. Like it was condensing a little, but it was not collapsing, and he just went down, and he was gonna have Sturdivant open for probably a touchdown. Again, it might have not been Sturdivant. It might have been Vernell or Trey. I can't remember who was running the route, but it was going to be open because they were running a cover one. They were running a 1 high safety, and they had a crossing route that was going to take that over to the left, and then they had a post coming in behind it, and it was going to be there. It was going to be there, and he just didn't wait for it. He just instead kind of went down for really seemingly no reason. And that was weird. That was weird to watch on film. I don't know what happened there at all.
Right.
So stuff like that, I'm not sure, because that's not something, if anything, when DJ's held the ball too long, he stays in there and takes the sack. He doesn't fall down. That was weird. Right. That was weird.
Right. So you had that play. Then you had a play late in the second quarter, right, just before halftime, where our entire offensive line gets blown up. LIU gets a massive amount of push, and it was as if they just got overpowered by this FCS D-line. I was like, what? Yes, it caused a field goal try, fine, it was what it was. But again, I'd say a lot of what we saw in the first half, a lot of the TFLs were not necessarily a result of the O-line play, maybe one or two, but outside of that, I felt like DJ just was not comfortable, period. So that was that. Passing touchdowns. This one I think is interesting. Trey Wilson, J. Michael Sturdivant, Hayden Hansen, 3 from Lagway. Okay?
Yep.
Second half, Livingston, Spirito from Jones.
Yep.
5 touchdown passes, 5 different receivers. Sweet. Lagway, 15 of 18, 83%, 120 yards. Serviceable, manageable. Played the first half exactly how we called it. However, we were expecting to see 2 quarterbacks in the second half.
At least.
Right?
Yeah.
Tramel Jones. And folks, for the record, coming off, Mandarin High School, 4-star, coming off his senior year where he did not play almost half the year because of a leg injury. Okay? Looked absolutely poised, cool, calm, collected. Cannot say enough about it. And, again, FCS opponent, second string, third string. They did have a couple starters still in the game, but Tramel Jones, the cadence was good, the way he commanded, the way he came to the line, body language was good, chest was out, head was up, head was on the swivel. On the swivel. He looked really good. And I can see why, for all intents and purposes, he took that job away from Bailey and Werner. Period.
I agree totally. Period. Quick right? Release, quick decisions, really nice.
The ball came out of his hand really nice. I thought, exactly. So there's that. 55 points. Let me touch on this real quick. 55 points, single game high in the Billy Napier era.
Yes, I should have said that. Very good.
I'm sorry, what?
Yep.
0 penalties. Only the second time in program history. They didn't commit a penalty in their game against LSU back in October of 2021. First time in program history, the Gators played a penalty-free game. It was back in second time. Yep. That LSU game we did end up losing, but this is only the second time in program history. Crazy. But to also have 0 penalties and 0 turnovers. Was not sloppy with the football. Again, we had 2 fumbles, but both were recovered. Spot on for the O-line for jumping on those balls. That was great. So at the end of the day, I think what this proves is guys were excited to get on the field, manageable, did some things at a really high level, especially when you look at the run blocking. Then, Jaden just took care of the rest himself.
Yeah.
The attitude, the energy was up, and not to mention, I felt like, you hit the nail on the head. With Tramel, there were a couple different routes, a couple different things in there that we didn't see with Lagway as the shot caller. So that was very interesting to see as well.
Yeah, confusing for sure.
Yeah, and I get he's not going to put certain things on film, but at the end of the day, I feel like outside of field goal kicking, that's separate. I felt like we probably could have had between 10 or 7 to 14 more points easily. But outside of that, job done. You were supposed to win big against the FCS opponent. You did win big. You were supposed to get out of there with no injuries, right? No injuries, minimal. If Bryce Levitt tweaked an ankle or a knee, whatever it was, that's fine. You did your job. Do what you had to do. Get out, go on to week 2. That's it.
Yep. Agreed. All right. So with that, let's move it on to Gator Bait. Get us started.
Yeah,
Talk
man.
to me about this defense, man. Good stuff.
This defense was phenomenal. Okay. Now, LIU, for those of you who don't know, LIU threw 3 quarterbacks, 2 at the same time, on the field. So 3 different quarterbacks combined for a 50.95 rating and a total rushing of 1.2 yards per carry. Again, the job was done. Get this, folks. Our Gator defense held LIU to 50 yards until 9 minutes and 30 seconds left in the fourth quarter on a 28-yard gain. Okay? That was the big gain of the night for LIU.
The one explosive. Yep.
right? And they finished with 86 yards in a game. Randy lost. Keep it a pitch it on that number. We'll get to that later. But that is what it is, right? The defense did exactly what they needed to do, and not to mention the two fumbles, the two recoveries, the takeaway. Of course, Thornton taking it to that. Thornton has just become an absolute ball hawk. Love his attitude.
Yep.
Love his energy around the ball, what he's trying to do. He's definitely picking up where, I'm not sure if we're going to miss Shamar for going to the NFL, and Shamar did some great things while he was here, while he was healthy. Right. Obviously, his play diminished a little bit when he became unhealthy, but Thornton has everything right now that it takes to really lead that secondary and do what it needs to do to produce very, very big for us. Another thing, B, did you know this was the first shutout in the Napier era?
Yeah, I think I did, because the last one was like 2019, right? Yep.
First shutout, Napier era, Big Papa Ron at the helm. Phenomenal. Allowed 86 total yards, as I mentioned before. How many first downs?
2.
2 first downs. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? 2 first downs, 37 net yards rushing. Oh my word. Okay. They had to punt 9 times. It was just unreal. Okay. 25 minutes of possession to UF's 34 minutes of possession. Big difference there. 1 sack. We knew what the sack was. Obviously, DJ holding on to the ball too long. That was what it was. Third down conversions, B, 1 of 12.
Yeah, and that was that 28-yard gain you mentioned.
Right. Got him off the field. That was what it was. Shout out to Miles Graham, 5 total tackles, 4 solo, 1 assisted. Cameron James, 5 tackles, 2 solo, 3 assisted. Okay. Cameron James, 2 sacks. Oh, I'm sorry, half a sack for a couple yards. And George Gumbs, the other half a sack.
Depends where you look.
Yeah, exactly. Disclaimer. But no,
disclaimer. That didn't come from ESPN, because they have it as no sacks.
Correct. A host of Gators at 4 tackles, 3 tackles, but either way, great defensive effort. And again, it's an FCS opponent. I know we're not going to overreact, of course, but they did exactly what they needed to do, and it was really neat to see this defense play at a very, very high level despite the competition. Because sometimes you figure, okay, lowered competition, they're not going to go as fast, they're not going to go as hard, they're not going to go as quick. But guess what? They did that. There were some times where sure they could have let up, but I'll tell you what, at the end of the day, when you look at Graham and the way that Graham played, there's your quarterback of the defense, Miles Graham.
Yeah, no question, and extremely excited to see the season from him. That he just looks all world, man. As I alluded to in our preseason review of these linebackers.
Extremely excited for that. So again, a couple things, some busted coverage for a 28-yard gain. That was late in the fourth quarter. I get that.
Yeah, backups were in for sure. Yeah.
Right. But outside the push on the front, if anything, I would like to see more sacks. But again, because of what LIU was trying to do, it was a little bit difficult to do that. But for all intents and purposes, the defense did their job. They came away injury-free. Kudos to them for a solid game. What do you got, B?
Yeah, no, really good points. Like how you kind of tied that together there. Again, I'm not going to overreact, or at least I'm going to try, right? So as good as this looked, we have to remember the opponent, right? So as you mentioned, this is a subpar, not talented, bottom-feeding FCS team as terms of their ranking. That's not to call them out or say anything negative about them as people, obviously. But this is not a good test for Florida. They do not match up with us athletically in any way. Having said that, there are things that you can take away from this performance that have nothing to do with who we were playing, but rather how we were playing. Allow me to explain. First and foremost, tackling. Tackling, doesn't matter who you're playing, you still got to tackle. And this was an outstanding display of tackling by the Gators. Tackling is about fundamentals, right? Now, there may be guys that we're going to play that are harder to tackle than the guys we had to play. But if you look at the fundamentals of tackling, wrapping up, right, bringing the guys to the ground, tackling the way you should. We weren't going for showboat hits out there. We weren't going for the boom hits, right? All that stuff. No, these were fundamental tackles. Well, Teddy Foster might have gone for a boom hit one time and he got it, but then he had to go to the sideline because he got hurt. But other than that, we looked pretty clean as far as our tackling and the fundamentals and the way we were wrapping up and bringing guys to the ground, the way we were stretching the edges, making sure we were getting plays extended out, getting our help, getting sideline to sideline, all of that stuff looked really, really fundamentally solid. And that is stuff that translates. That is stuff that, again, the opponent doesn't matter. Next, gap discipline. Super important for a team to play with good gap discipline. If you're not familiar with what that means, what it means is we have linebackers, especially, though it matters for your defensive linemen as well, staying in the gap that they are assigned to, whatever gap that might be, and filling the gaps that they are supposed to fill when you're trying to stop the run, trying to get to the quarterback, whatever the case might be, staying in your lane, if you will. The Gator D was positioned extremely well, and their gaps were correctly timed in terms of when they were filling them on Saturday. And this really helped us stop a team that runs a tricky little option scheme, right? They do a lot of different read option stuff, some traditional option, right? Some speed option. There was a lot of stuff that was going on in that regard. And that stuff can be a little tricky if you don't cover it right and if you don't have your gaps right. And they did, and that's why we shut it down all night long. Lastly, and this one might be the most important when we start talking about future opponents on the schedule, including the one we have this Saturday, staying in your pass rush lanes, not over pursuing the quarterback. This team's quarterback was mobile. As I mentioned, so is next week's and several others on our schedule as well. We have to be good at this. It has been a struggle for UF for years. We love to overrun on the edges, get too far by the quarterback, not contain the pocket, and let them escape, and then they're off to the races, right? You've seen this movie if you've watched Gator football the last decade, that we have just gotten creamed by running quarterbacks time and time and time again. And I got to tell you, I started to see signs of it getting better at the end of last year, and it was absolutely excellent. Excellent. Nobody, other than I think maybe one time we got a little off on this and the quarterback did escape, but we were able to catch him from behind. But almost the entire night, nobody overrushed. We held the edge. We kept the quarterback in the pocket, stretched the play out properly when it was a run. And this allowed us to get so many great stops. So many great stops. These are things that translate. They are not opponent dependent. If we continue to do them, there are real opportunities for this defense to play well next week and for the rest of the season. One negative note. It's not even negative. Just contrary to all the positive stuff I just said. We didn't really get to evaluate pass coverage. You mentioned the blown coverage. It wasn't fully blown, but it definitely was missed that allowed that big gain. Again, we had third string in at that point in time. So it's not something that I'm going to really get on those guys for. Also, it's a team that barely passed the ball all night. So you probably were kind of like taken by surprise, right? I totally get it. So I'm not going to evaluate them off that. Again, I'm not going to overreact. So the only thing I would say is because we didn't really get to see it, I'm going to have to still take a wait and see approach on what our pass defense really kind of looks like, because you didn't get to evaluate it basically at all on Saturday. And even if you did, again, who's the opponent, right? So I think that's very much a wait and see there. And we'll find out more on Saturday, because I think Byron Brown can definitely throw it a little bit better than what we were seeing this weekend. Certainly not tremendously better, but better. So with that, we'll wrap up defense. Any other thoughts you want to add in there before we go?
No, great points on the D. I think, again, at the end of the day, jobs were done, got out of there in good fashion, and yeah, no overreaction out of that. So good.
All right, I like it. Yes, let's not overreact. Good stuff. It's my mission. So, visor throw. Here we go. It is going to get a little dirty, but not too bad tonight for me. First and foremost, Trey Smack, buddy, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're my guy, Trey. 3 missed field goals? Are you kidding me? Now, the 57-yarder, hey, forgiven. You clanked it off the goalpost from 57. That's fine. That can happen. That's a long kick. That's all good. But 2 from 39 and 41? What are we doing, man? What are we doing? Overhooked 1. underhooked the other. Like, I don't know. That was not good. That was not good at all. We got to get that fixed ASAP. He has got to be a kicker we can depend on. We are going to need to depend on him as the season goes along. There is no question, right? Especially with some offensive play calling concerns that we may or may not have on this team. We are going to need at times to rely on our very strong-legged but hopefully accurate field goal kicker. Got to get it fixed. That's not good. I don't typically call players out in the visor throw, but I'm calling them out, and I've got another one I'm going to call out in a minute. Number 2, as already mentioned, I absolutely felt the play calling, especially in the pass game, was better and to a degree even more aggressive in the second half with Trammell than in the first half with DJ. And I don't understand it. That's super confusing. Again, the only thing I can think of is, were you trying to ease DJ back in because of his time off? But then how do you not ease a true freshman into a game in his first start? It just makes no sense. And frankly, it's not a good look. You borderline made your true freshman look better than your rock star, true sophomore, All-American quarterback. That you don't want to do that. Like, that's not a good thing to do. And I'm not talking about how they played. I'm talking about what opportunities you gave them. And they just, to me, were borderline, like, not created equal. I mean, I think it's close, but they really were almost favoring Trammell in that regard from what I was seeing. Now, perhaps some of that had to do with the fact that, we're dealing with second team stuff for both sides of the ball. That could have factored in. It's hard for me to determine that. And again, I don't have all 22 to review the film, so I can't see the stuff down the field as well. So I'm not gonna get too far out on the limb there, but it's not a good look, and I didn't like it. Number 3, stop putting Cam Waits in the game. Even at guard, he can't make or hold a block, especially when we ask him to pull, because that was one where he absolutely got blown up in this game. It's where DJ had to scramble. If you want to go back and watch that replay where he scrambled for about 9 yards. Yeah, that was because Cam Waits pulled down the line and just whiffed on a block. This has to be showing up in practice. And even if it isn't, it is showed up in so many games on so much film, time and time again. Just put the next guy in. He must be better than this. This is a train wreck at this point. Stop putting him in the game. I'm sorry, Cam. I think you're a hell of a nice guy. You've got a great success story in terms of coming back from the injury and everything else and all that stuff, but you're just maybe not the same player. I think this is a loyalty thing from Napier with him following from Louisiana, and it needs to stop. Like, I don't know that, but I think it, and it needs to stop. The film is terrible. It's absolutely terrible on what we're seeing from the execution of blocks repeatedly from Cam Waits when he is in the game. And it's extremely concerning. That's all I got. What do you got?
I'd say the visor's fairly dirty. That's good. Good's good.
A little bit. Pretty dirty for 55-0. I'll tell you that.
Well, that's the caveat, right? It's like, oh, it's fairly dirty. It must have been a close game. Must have been. No, not really. So no. I'll tell you what. I'll start mine off this way. Still eating vanilla ice cream. Right. So from the offensive standpoint, but I felt like I ate the vanilla, like it was a great value vanilla with DJ. Then I got to Breyer's vanilla with Trammell. So a little bit better, whatever it is. And I get it. Second, third team, no problem. But I guess what I want to wrap up about that, because I think we've already beat the horse, but it seems like Trammell had more opportunities downfield. I'll just leave it at that. So couldn't understand it, but fine. Hopefully we're going to upgrade as the season goes on. Non-starters: Mizell, ankle; Dallas Wilson, foot, boot; LJ McRae, lower body injury; Caleb Banks, lower leg; Pup Howard, undisclosed.
Ankle. I heard ankle.
Ankle? Fair enough. There you go. Ankle. I get it. Didn't need them in this game. Just would have been nice to see them in the season opener back in the swamp to restart the home opening win streak that we lost last year. Enough said. Trey Wilson. Tricky Trey. First TD grab. Great to see. Active. But after that, essentially a non-factor.
It was actually before that. That was the last catch he made, I think.
Right? A non-factor. Period. when I look at his stat line, it was really hard to go, wait, what? For minus what? You got to be kidding me. He is not. 5 receptions, minus 4 yards. Yeah, it was unreal. Now, mind you, some of those passed out the flat, got blown up, not proper blocking, was what it was. Yep. But again, not the great opportunities. I know he was so excited to come out on the field. I'm going to reference him later on, but that was tough to see. I mentioned it earlier. LIU, 11 TFLs.
Yeah.
11. Double-digit TFLs. Leave that alone. And then the last one, Trey Smack. Listen, man, this is your contract year, okay?
Yep.
Doing big things. Go on to the league. The miss from 40-41, whatever it was, 2 to 3 yards from that left upright.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
The miss from 39, 2 to 3 on that right upright.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 57-yarder, the doink off the left, I get it. But 40% to start the season, something was in his head. Something was up with him because he just did not look like him. I mean, the look of awe and disgust after he missed that first 40-yarder was like, you can just tell. He was like, oh, boy. This could either go really, really good and it gets corrected and he's going to go 4 for 4 the rest of the game, or he might miss the other 4. And he went 2 for 5. That was what it was. So those are my visor throws, my man.
Yeah. So comment on your injuries. Just real quick, as far as updates goes, for those that don't know, McCray is going to be out a little while. That's relatively serious, unfortunately. I don't know what it is, but it's relatively serious. I don't know when we get Wilson back. We were projected to have him back this week, but I guess that was bad intel. So I don't know if they're just holding him out precautionarily. Same thing with Caleb Banks, not necessarily projected to have him back this week, but that's a minor thing, and he'll come back either next week or certainly by LSU. That was, again, I think precautionary, just no need to play him. Mizell, no idea. That was a total, where did this come from? Same thing with Pup. No idea. Like those guys had been practicing. They were full go. We don't know what happened there. So the bummer thing about what Napier has started to do, in my opinion, I think it's a bummer. I guess I get it, but I just don't like it. And I don't understand exactly the need for it, but whatever. I guess from a game planning standpoint or a strategy standpoint with other coaches, it makes sense. But ultimately, Napier has stopped releasing an injury report except when he's required to, or a depth chart or whatever. He's required to for SEC games now. He will do it for SEC games. When it's not an SEC game, you're in the dark. We will know nothing, period. Other than what he might decide to give us at a press conference, if he gives us anything, which he usually doesn't. So that's it. That's what you're going to know. You will not have an injury update or depth chart at all any week of the season unless it's an SEC game. So until week 3, like this week, we won't know who's going to go and who's not going to go until pregame warmups. That's when we'll know. So kind of a bummer, and I don't like it, but it is what it is. So moving along, let's talk recruiting. Hatchlings, what updates you got?
Yeah, nothing big in particular, B, outside of the fact that right now with the Gators, and this is coming from On3, we're currently number 13 in the nation, number 7 in the SEC. When you look at our total recruits, 53% of those are coming from in-state, right in the backyard. 74% of them blue chip. Blue chip. So that's actually higher than how we finished last year. Last year we were at 66%. Now we're up to 74% blue chip. That's a good sign. However, we still don't have a definitive 5-star recruit.
Yep, which may or may not matter that much when we break it all down. We'll see. And obviously plenty of time to go on that. Billy's obviously proved he can close a class pretty well after last year. So, but we'll see what happens. My updates are more surrounding, or I'm sorry, was that all you had?
Also, just to let you know, right now we've got 19 commits, and that 19 breaks down to 4 offensive tackles, 3 wide receivers, 2 defensive linemen, 2 cornerbacks, 2 interior offensive linemen, running back, 1 tight end, 1 edge, 1 QB, 1 linebacker, and 1 safety.
Very good.
And there you go.
I like it. So my intel is all surrounding stuff that happened over the weekend from a recruiting standpoint, like at the game. So we did have several of the commits from that class that were expected to attend. I don't know that all of them actually made it. I didn't get an actual like who showed up and who didn't report, but most were expected to attend. Not most of the ones that were on the list. I didn't write down the whole list, but we also had a flip target in the D lineman from, D lineman who is currently committed to FAU in Frederick Santius. Reportedly, he was very impressed with his first trip to the swamp, but no other news as of yet right there. And we also had several potential 2027 recruits in attendance for the game as well, but this being a lower profile game, no big splashes expected at this point, as of right now anyway, and obviously nothing's dropped yet today. And I wouldn't necessarily expect it, but just good to see a solid turnout of both current commits and future. Always good to get those guys talking, right? Because they tend to help recruit the new guys that are coming potentially into the class. So hopefully that was a good experience. Obviously, Swamp was pretty rocking. Actually, I was pretty impressed for a less than stellar opponent. 89,000 was the actual attendance. And it got a little rowdy in there. I don't think people were as motivated because of the competition, but certainly we had it going, and people stayed too, which was interesting. You and I were noting that even into the fourth, there was still quite a lot of people there. So so that was cool. All right, moving on. Pride of the Sunshine. Get things started off here. I'll get going with this. Multiple examples of the quality of the culture of this team showed throughout the game, as they typically do. If you haven't listened to this pod before, we do this segment for a couple different reasons, but one of the reasons is that we both believe that the culture of a team matters, and it matters more than I think it gets credit for mattering. And again, we both feel this way, and I think that this team, especially going through last year, really showed the caliber of its character, if you will, in terms of what it was capable of in fighting back and overcoming a lot of adversity down the stretch. Adversity, if I can speak. And so I'm not going to get into all that again and how I think that they're, set up that way and everything else. But rather than talk about the player behavior or coaches, as I typically do in this segment, I'm going to talk about how, once again, this team is going to need to have a great culture in the locker room this season for what is going to be another brutal schedule, right? We talked about this, and regardless of how you feel about the schedule in terms of, oh, well, we're Florida and we should be able to play this schedule, and okay, fine. But at the end of the day, this is a really hard schedule. It just is. And regardless of how we play, whether it's better than we think or worse than we think or just as we think, whatever, this team is going to have to be really tight-knit in order to make it through this season without a good deal of emotional fallout of some kind from all the noise, the outside world, and yes, that includes us, that includes this podcast, that is being put on them, right, from all that. And for what it's worth, after seeing what they did last season, I believe they can do it. But it's not a guarantee, right? So it's something we'll continue to keep an eye on. We're going to continue to monitor. We're going to continue to take a look at. We're going to continue to try and keep the pulse on as best we can. Obviously, we're not inside the locker room, so we don't know. But there are signs. There are things that you see, body language on the field, right? The stuff we kind of talked about, the way they kind of work with one another. I didn't want to get into all that stuff tonight because I feel like we talk about it a lot through the season, and maybe you have some of that. I don't know. But I just wanted to kind of talk more holistically about why this is so important and how important I think it's going to be yet again this year. This stuff can make or break a team, regardless of schedule, when it comes down to how you're going to perform at a very high level. It can really be a big deal. So here's hoping we can do it again and have another good year with this. What do you got?
Yeah, so believe it or not, to kick off my Pride of the Sunshine section, I've got the quote by Napier last year: "Hope and belief are powerful."
Yep.
And when you look at what he's instilled into these young men, and regardless if you want to debate why they came back, why they didn't come back, some of them like Tyreek, like Caleb Banks, and so on and so forth, at the end of the day, these guys have heard the message. I've talked before about in past pods about scar tissue. That is there. They've assembled, quite frankly, the most talented roster that they've ever been a part of themselves. And it's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds this season. So hope and belief, incredibly powerful. Let's see how it plays out, as this culture is going to probably stand its biggest test, right? Year four.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
huge. Another thing, I love the new warm-up sequence. So when the
Oh,
Gators
yeah.
come onto the field 60 minutes before kickoff, yeah, we've got the special teams out there. The punters and kickers are out there. Joe Houston's out there running around, hyping them up. But outside of that, I love to see the position groups together. I love to see the O-line, the line players dab each other up on the goal line. That was phenomenal to see that, or the back end of the end zone. That was great to see. I love to see DJ hype up every single position group.
Yep.
Made his way over, hyped everyone up. That was phenomenal. And just, again, the energy. I may have said to you, I think, I said something to the effect of, it was just so palpable, right? Just to that first kickoff. The last thing I will say is Trey Wilson. I know he didn't have the best of games. Did have a touchdown, almost a non-factor. But I'm not sure if you noticed this, saw this, or read this. I read this on ESPN article, but Trey was so excited to be back out on the field. When the team ran on the field, he ran past Coach Napier and gone. Just
love that. I did not see that. That's awesome. That's
right,
awesome.
I'm back. Let's do this. Let's get going. And so you can just tell, because if you remember Trey last year, down with the injury, but also showed a lot of frustration, especially in the Samford game. If you remember him.
Yep.
Being very frustrated on the sideline, an analyst, a staffer was trying to grab his jersey, and he kind of shrugged him off, and that got some negative press. I get it. Trey's very passionate, believes in what he does, believes in why he's here, and so he wants to produce, and that'll make anybody frustrated when you do not produce. So those are my points. I'm proud of the Sunshine Bee.
Yeah, and one more I actually am going to throw in that I think is relevant, just really quick, because it occurred to me while we were talking about it here. And I know I said I wasn't going to talk about player behavior, but I am for a second. Lagway's post-game press conference, you brought it up earlier.
Okay,
they won 55-0. He had 134 quarterback rating, at least the NFL. It was 194 college, whatever. Solid numbers. Yes, it wasn't perfect, but it was not a bad game. And he came out, to your point, and talked about how he did not play up to standard, how they need to be better, how he was not pleased and will go back and look for opportunities to improve. And He was 15 for 18 with 3 touchdowns. Yes, a lower number of yards, but 15 for 18 with 3 touchdowns, and they won 55-0. That's the kind of culture you want out of your quarterback. And I can leave it right there. So, yeah, I think pointed in the right direction for sure. All right. Moving on, officiating. Move back, you suck. Very well officiated game. It just was. And that's not because they got all the penalties and we got none. So if you've never listened to this segment before, we are very unbiased here, try our best to be unbiased here. We go back, we review this, we look for things that we saw that were missed, things that we saw that we felt were in error. We absolutely try to evaluate this objectively. As I mentioned before, Randy is a high school official, so he brings a unique perspective to this. And despite the disparaging amount of penalties from their side to ours, I thought these calls were correct pretty much across the board. The only one that I could really point out that really stood out to me, I'm not saying there wasn't anything else missed, but the only thing that I really saw that stood out is there was a time when the quarterback was scrambling for Long Island, and he went into a slide, and we hit him. It wasn't brutal, it wasn't hard, but he got hit, and he had already more than started the slide. It was absolutely a flaggable call, a penalizable infraction, if you will. And I can't help but wonder if this is a higher profile quarterback, a higher profile team, if that doesn't get flagged. And I don't love that. So that one is questionable to me. We probably should have gotten a flag on that one. Otherwise, though, it really was a pretty clean game. I really didn't see a whole lot. No real drastic holding, holding every play, that whole old adage. but I didn't really see anything that was drastic that wasn't called. Nothing really jumped out at me on film that I said, whoa, nothing. So I thought it was pretty good. What's your take?
Yeah, so great point there. I mean, that was a bang bang play. And you know what, B, for all intents and purposes, you might be right. If it is a different kind of game, if it is a higher caliber player,
Mm-hmm.
does that draw a flag? Maybe, right? 50-50, who knows? But anyways, I was really happy to see them call the late hit. I referenced it earlier
Yes.
when Jaden Ball with the stiff arm, broke a tackle, got to the sideline, was clearly on the sideline, 2 steps on the white, gets
Yep.
hit. That is a hit. I get it, it's
So
bang bang
rarely,
too, but it's very rarely, exactly, very
rarely
rarely
called.
called.
Yep.
So
Especially on a big running back.
oh yeah, so it's great to see that call be made. So kudos there. It really was a motley crew of a crew. The reason why I say that is because Trennis Livingston, okay, the referee, Sunbelt Conference. Jonathan May, the line judge, Conference USA. Brian Fortier, side judge, coming out of ACC. Rodney Lowry, the umpire, SEC. And I'm not going to finish the rest of the crew, but that's what I mean by a motley crew of an officiating team. But
Well,
again,
let's just do that every game then, because those guys were great.
it seems like they did not skip a beat and kept the game moving. And yeah, I have no qualms there. I get what you mean about the slide. He gave himself up. That was bang bang. Probably couldn't have been a flaggable offense, but outside of that, pretty good crew, B.
Yeah, man. Yeah, agreed. Glad to see you saw it the same way. And yeah, let's petition for no more conference-based crews. Let's just pull them from everywhere.
That's a
All right.
thought.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. All right, let's wrap this up as far as the game thoughts here. I'm going to start by saying, going back to my theme of the night, not going to overreact here. I saw things that concerned me, but that happened in week 1 of last season, to say the least. There were a lot of things that concerned me in week 1 of last season. And you know what? As the season progressed, we got better. It took too long, but we did get better. Lagway's play does give me pause. But again, he showed signs that it was improving as the half came to an end.
Yeah.
The defense looks stifling. But again, significantly overmatched opponent. So they should have. So were they really good? I think they could be, and they show promise of it. But based on what I mentioned, there's still a lot to learn, right? So takeaways are, there are some good things that I absolutely think translate, and there are still some concerns that definitely need to show improvement, and quickly, right? We can't do what we did last year and be waiting around and getting this fixed in week 5. We ain't got that kind of time, especially not this year. Our schedule last year, though very difficult, again, pretty much equally difficult, it was a little easier on the front end than it was on the back end. This year, not so much. We don't start as fast, obviously, as we did last year. But after these first 2, if you haven't looked at it, go look at it, because, whoa, it gets real hard real quick, right? Those middle 4 are a nightmare. So we have got to get this figured out. We've got one more to kind of finish the tune-up here this week, and then it's go time. It is go time. LSU just beat Clemson at Clemson. Miami just beat Notre Dame. Yes, they were at home, but I'm not sure that matters for Miami. So long story short, we got some serious competition that we're going to be facing. These teams are not messing around. We have got to go spot the ball, quote one Mr. Napier, and play some serious, hard-nosed, real football. And I can definitely make an argument in very many ways that didn't happen on Saturday night, despite what scoreboard looked like. Again, the opponent is a factor there. So still some questions that I don't have answers to, aside from my concerns and my positive takeaways. Let's get them answered this week. Let's clean up the stuff we need to. Let's establish the things that I think are good, or that we think are good, are actually good, and move on from there. With that, on to week 2. Let's do it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. And that's the whole caveat of an opening game like this, right? The takeaways are so tough, especially when you look at the talent gap, as we've discussed before. We knew it was never going to be a close football game. Like, well, at least I hope we knew it was never going to be a close football game, right? And so when you look at the analysis of this, as much as we want to dive it fully in about this play, the offense, what the defense did, and we've done some of that, it's still challenging nonetheless, because at the end of the day, it's 55-0. It's an FCS opponent. We probably left 14 to 21 points on the board. Outside of that, the positives are, guess what? No to minimal injuries, right? We had a couple of tweaks here and there. Teddy Foster had a stinger, but he finished the game.
Yeah, he came back.
Love it.
Yeah, really no injuries at all that I'm aware of.
Lovett limped off, but Lovett was fine at the end of the game. Lovett just closed down. He was fine. Okay, a strain. Okay, good. No big deal, right? First game in Florida history, 0.0 penalties combined, right? First shutout in 46 games. Okay, most points scored in the Napier era and in 42 games. Okay, 13 true freshmen debuted on the field, 8 on defense, 5 on offense.
Nice.
Okay, so coming into coming into the USF game.
Yeah, right letters, wrong order. You're good.
Yeah, exactly. So coming into USF next week, we're 3-0 all time. We've outscored them 111 to 63. Let's keep that up. Our all-time scoring streak, 462 consecutive games. That's on the board. And, oh, by the way, Napier's over 500 for the first time since November 3rd of 2023.
Ooh, nice stat. Stat. I like it.
So good thing. And not to mention, Florida's won the last 5 straight games in the Swamp by an average of 22 points. Let's leave it at that. Continue the momentum, right? Do your job. Do what you need to do. Again, we've seen pages 1 through 4 of the playbook here against LIU. Let's go to page 8, 9, 10 against USF, right?
Yeah, I meant to make mention of that earlier. Sorry to cut you off there, but I do think that's relevant to talk to for a second. I think it is okay that we didn't show a lot in this game, right? I think that was probably expected. I think you don't want to put anything new or different or exotic on film. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, mind you. I'm not saying we have anything new or different or exotic to put on film. But if we do, this wasn't the game to put it on film, right? And that's fair. And I'm not going to knock Napier for not doing that, or for doing that, whichever one is correct there, because that was a lot of negatives. But I'm not going to knock him for that choice. How about we say that? Because I think that's probably the correct call in terms of not giving you're holding your cards. You're playing the cards close to your vest there, and that's okay, right? You didn't need to show it. Obviously, 55-0 was fine. You didn't need to put that out there. So fair enough. And I can live with that part. My only qualm is what we talked about with the way it looked a little different in half one versus half two. But overall, I don't have a problem with the vanilla for once in this game, because you shouldn't have shown anything different yet. I just hope there's something different to come, but I ain't holding my breath. What else you got? Sorry, I cut you off.
No, that's good. That was about it, right? You do what you had to do. Now it's time to move on. Okay, step 1 complete, right? 11 more steps to go. Step 2 coming up here in 5 days.
Yep, absolutely. To that end, let's get into Keep It or Pitch It for USF. And we'll start with a review of Keep It or Pitch It for last week. So we picked completely differently. So you were going to have, obviously opposite results here. And it came out that I went 2-1 and you went 1-2. So not as bad as it could have been with one of us going 3-0 and 0-3. But but here's your breakdown. So we said that Lagway would sling it for at least 230 yards against LIU. However, we were not expecting him to play much, if any, of the second half. We called that right. I pitched that. You kept it. I was kicking myself for pitching it, but turned out to be right. So I got lucky on that one. Number 2 was the Gators will defend the waters of the swamp and give up no more than 210 yards against the Sharks. Fins down. Well, that one definitely went my way. I kept it. You pitched it. And obviously that one was a yes. This third one was close. It was borderline, but I gave it to you. Because we did have a field goal, the last one, the 57-yarder, where we had somebody run out on the field late and we had to call a timeout, but It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to cause a problem. So the last one was UF will have sharp execution in all three phases of the game, meaning the correct number of players on all plays and no penalties for personnel related reasons. I pitched it, you kept it, and you were right. It was actually very clean, and I'm not going to knock that one thing happening that one time. That's fun.
Right,
so,
right.
So to that end, we have our keep it or pitch it now for USF this week. Number one, you ready?
I am ready to play, B.
All right, let's do it. UF will hold USF to at or below 35% conversion on third down, in keeping with a top 30 defense from last year's numbers. That would have made us top 30 last year in this stat, and that's something we were going for. So we will hold them below 35% on third down conversion this weekend. Keep it or pitch it.
Tough number, man. I vacillated with that number. That's a really tough number. I'm thinking, okay, 1 of 3, then 3 of 6, and 3 of 9, the 30. Then get to there. I don't know if we can do it, so I am going to. I think it's going to be close, but I'm going to pitch it.
Oh, man, I'm right there with you. I'm pitching it as well. I think we're high 30s here, but I think we're just over the mark. So, I mean, we could keep them under. It's possible, but I think, you know, when you've got a mobile quarterback and you get into those 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3s, right? If they're trying to throw it and it's not there, he can scramble and he gets a couple of yards and they got it, right? So little stuff like that is what makes me think they're going to get a little higher. I don't think it'll be much, if any, over 40, but it's going to be right there. But I don't think we quite hold them under 35. But I think that's okay. I'll get to my thought on the Sims later when we talk to that in regards to something with third down, but it's not this stat. So number 2, the UF defense will rush Byron Brown effectively, as in pass rush him effectively, on Saturday and accumulate at least 3 sacks during the game. Keep it or pitch it.
Yeah, tough here too. I thought we could have done a little bit more with LIU. We did not. And so I worry about the elusiveness of Mr. Brown. And so based off of that, I'm going to pitch. Pitch it.
Interesting. I'm keeping it. I think we get there. I think this D-line, the way they were living in the backfield against LIU, I think if LIU had actually thrown the ball more than 11 times, and a lot of those being very quick hitters, I think we would have gotten some sacks. Well, I guess technically we did get 1, depending on where you look. But I think we're going to get it done. I think we get 3. I don't know if it's more than 3, but I think we will get at least 2, 3. So I am keeping that one. Gums and Sap look nasty off those edges, man. They look good. And actually, when Cam James get in, and Jalen Woods, can we talk about Jalen Woods for a quick second? My goodness, did you see that tackle he made for a loss in this game? Oh my, that kid is going to be good. Oh, yeah. True freshman. Ooh-wee. That is going to be some good stuff there. So yeah, I think with the talent we have at edge, I like the opportunity to get this done. You're right about the mobileness, and he might be too elusive to get to 3, but I think we got it. So we're going to differ there. All right, last one. The Gators offense will rush for at least 171. We just got to go 1 yard over there. At least 171 yards against the Bulls defense this weekend. Keep it or pitch it. And I have an interesting stat coming for you from the Sims on that one as well. But what do you got?
What's the interesting stat on the Sims? No.
I'm not telling you yet. You got to pick it first.
Yeah. No, I definitely another one that I went back and forth on. And at the end of the day, I think we're going to be close to it, but I am going to pitch.
Wow, pitching all 3. I'm keeping this one too. So we're different on 2 of the 3. I love it. We often differ here, despite being aligned on so many things. We tend to have different takes here. That's interesting that you're pitching that one. I didn't think you would. Okay. All right. So yeah, I'm keeping this, and I think we're going to get it. All right. And I made that pick before the Sims results. So to that end, I do have the results from the Sims. We went 10-0 in the Sims that I ran. So for what that's worth, we did not lose a game. Average margin of victory was 14.1. So I wouldn't use this to gamble. Just buyer beware on that. I do not think it is accurately representing those type of things, but we did not cover the spread as per NCAA 26 in the 10 games that I ran. And the interesting thing is we were over 200 yards per game rushing as an average. Over 200. So for what that's worth, again, not a whole lot, but it's just interesting. We also only allowed 91 rushing yards per game. So that was also interesting. Even though we won all 10, however, here's where we're going to get into kind of the stat of the game thing. Some of those wins were quite close. There was one by 3 points, one by 1 point, one by 6 points. There were some close games here. And the closer games, the number that stuck out, the stat that stuck out was our third down conversion percentage, not theirs, ours. Theirs didn't seem to really matter in terms of the results. But when we didn't hit at least 40% conversion on third down, these games got uncomfortable. So that's something that I'm going to look at for the weekend and see if it actually is an indicator. Again, we do this for fun. We thought it would be a cool thing to add just to kind of look at something and see, does the game evaluate this correctly? It has gotten quite a few things that I would say are kind of right over the time that we've been doing this. We started last season, but it's not always right, for the record. So just something fun to look at and something to see. So if we're not converting as the game goes along, right, as you get into the third and maybe fourth quarter, if we're not at or above a 40% clip on third down conversion, take a look at the scoreboard, see how close it is. Because it might be a little uncomfortable. So there you go. That's for what that's worth. That's what we see here. So yeah, with that, I think we're going to wrap things up here and close it out. I'm going to turn it over to you to kind of tie back in why we're doing this and give a little closing thought here.
Yeah, I think so. So for those of you who've been with us for a while, thank you. For those of you who are just now tuning in for maybe the first time, we do this strictly out of the love for Gator football, period. This is something that Ben approached me about a few years back, and I said, you know what, why not? Especially for the beginning of the Napier era, it's turned out to be very good therapy.
Yes, it has.
So that's definitely helped things. If you go back to some pods in the first season, it's hello, my name is Randy, and I'm a Florida Gator fan. So that's how we started the meeting. But no, strictly we do this out of the love of Gator football. We also did not want this to just be a talking platform, a talking head-like platform. No disrespect to some of those shows, but we value analysis. We value stats. We value accurate stats.
As best as we can find them.
Exactly. We value bringing you high quality content. So the research done by this is all independent. Ben does his, I do mine. And not to mention, the other caveat of this pod is the fact that we have our agenda, but Ben has his points. I have my points, and we do not collaborate on points. They are all recorded live, fresh cut, one go. Ben's got his, I've got mine. We don't hear them pre-show. So that's another unique thing about what makes us us. And so with that, if you love the content, just tell your friends about us, right? Tell other people in Gator Nation what we're doing, what we're about, why we do it, how we do it, our agenda, our style. And if it jives with you, awesome. We look forward. If it is provocative, if it does get you going, we appreciate it. We enjoy bringing you the content.
Absolutely. And do us a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I know everybody says it. I hate hearing it as much as I hate saying it, but it does make a difference. It does make a difference, and it messes with all the algorithms and all that fun stuff. So, if you liked what you heard, hit the like. If you want to hear more, hit the subscribe. How about that? That sounds a little better, maybe. I like that a little better. Maybe we can start saying that. So, yeah, there you go. So we really do appreciate it. Thanks everybody for taking the time, and for those who have been here, thanks very much for continuing to listen. And anybody new, welcome, as I said before, and we really appreciate it. So I'll turn it over to you to sign us off, Randy.
Definitely, my man. All right. So just let you all know, next pod, okay, we've got the USF game this Saturday. Okay. After that, we'll do our rapid reaction right after that game. So about an hour after the game. And then Monday the 8th, we'll do our breakdown of that pod of USF versus UF. So outside of that, wherever you are, whenever you may be listening, thank you for taking the time, and we will see you around Gator Nation.